Monarch just turned Keiko's worst fear into reality, and episode the fourth of may have changed this story in a much bigger way than it first appears. Today we're breaking down Keiko's biggest nightmare becomes a reality. Monarch, Legacy of Monsters, Season 2, Episode 4. This episode doesn't just move the plot forward. It blows open the emotional heart of the series. Because beneath all the Titan mystery, Apex infiltration, and Monarch secrets, this episode is really about abandonment, guilt, and the devastating way the past keeps repeating itself from one generation to the next. Before we dive in, this video will contain spoilers for this episode, so if you haven't watched it yet, you might want to come back after. And if you enjoy TV show breakdowns and theories like this, make sure to subscribe to the channel for more deep dives every week. Alright, let's get into it. Episode 4 is one of those chapters that feels deceptively packed. On the surface, there are several big moving pieces. Kate returns after pulling away. Shaw and the team try to infiltrate Apex. Cora, or May, ends up in a far more dangerous position than expected. Billy's map changes the hunt for Titan X. And yet, when you really step back and look at what this episode is doing, everything circles back to Keiko. Not just Keiko as a scientist. Not just Keiko as part of Monarch's past. But Keiko as a mother, as someone haunted by the choices she made, and as someone now being forced to watch those choices echo through her family in the worst possible way. That's why the title fits so well. Keiko's biggest nightmare becoming reality is not just about Titans, danger, or chaos. It's about the emotional cost of what was buried for years finally resurfacing. And that begins with one of the episode's most important developments, Hiroshi finding the letter. This is such a huge moment because it connects the past and present in a brutally personal way. Earlier in the story, Bill found Keiko's letter to Lee, the one that effectively ended that chapter of their relationship. That was already painful enough because it suggested Keiko was trying to cut something off before it could destroy even more lives. But episode 4 takes that private wound and turns it into generational fallout by having Hiroshi discover the same truth. And immediately you can feel what the episode is setting up. This is not just a son reading an old message. This is a son finding what he believes is the explanation for why his family fell apart. And that reaction makes perfect sense. From Hiroshi's point of view, his childhood was defined by loss. Keiko disappeared. Bill went away. The emotional stability that should have existed in his life never really did. So when he finds this letter, of course his mind jumps to blame. Of course he looks at Keiko and sees someone whose choices may have helped destroy his family. The tragedy here is that Hiroshi is looking at a complicated, painful history through the eyes of a wounded child who never got the full story. And in that moment, Keiko is no longer just his mother. She becomes the symbol of abandonment. But this detail might be more important than it seems, because the episode is not simply showing us family conflict. It is showing us repetition. Bill once found that letter and had his own emotional response to it. Now Hiroshi does the same. The same discovery. The same emotional explosion. The same past poisoning the present. That repetition is what makes episode 4 feel so heavy. The pain didn't stay in one generation. It spread. And Keiko now has to face the reality that what she tried to leave behind didn't disappear. It survived in silence and came back sharper than ever. At the same time, the episode is smart enough not to reduce this entirely to blame. Keiko is not framed as some simple villain of her son's story. If anything, the tragedy is that everyone here is carrying their own version of hurt. Hiroshi feels abandoned. Keiko carries guilt. Bill clearly made choices that shaped Hiroshi's life too. Lee's presence only complicates all of it. So the nightmare here is not just that Hiroshi learns the truth. It's that the truth arrives without context, in the most emotionally explosive way possible. Instead of healing old wounds, it tears them open. And this moment actually hints at something bigger, because Hiroshi's anger may force the show to confront a family dynamic it has been building toward for a long time. We know Hiroshi's life echoes parts of Keiko's in ways he may not fully understand yet. We know he ended up leading a fractured emotional life of his own. We also know that he built relationships with Kate's mother and Kentaro's mother while carrying unresolved damage from his own parents. That means this letter may not just reopen the past. It may finally expose the entire emotional chain reaction that started with Keiko, Bill, and Lee. And once that happens, the personal story of Monarch becomes just as important as the monster story. Now, while all of that is happening, the episode also gives us Kate's return, and this is a really important counterbalance to the Hiroshi storyline. Kate has been drifting emotionally for a while, and that makes sense given everything she has endured. Her trauma has shaped her from the beginning, especially after G-Day. And on top of that, she is now carrying the guilt of helping bring Lee back from Axis Mundi, which indirectly contributed to Titan X being unleashed into the world. That's a heavy burden for anyone to carry. So when she pulls away, it doesn't feel like weakness, it feels human. What makes her return so meaningful is that the episode doesn't bring her back through some giant action set piece or a sudden speech about courage. It brings her back through a smaller, more personal moment. Seeing the child she once saved during Godzilla's attack in San Francisco reconnects her to something she had lost. Proof that even in her most broken state, she mattered to someone. She made a difference. That's powerful because Kate's arc this season seems to be about reclaiming agency. She doesn't want to just survive in a world of monsters. She wants to become someone who can actually save people in it. And that matters even more when you consider her apparent connection to Titan X. The show keeps hinting that Kate can sense this creature in a way others can't. Keiko seems to have had a similar instinct in the past. That parallel cannot be accidental. It suggests there may be something deeper tying these women to Titan X, some kind of sensitivity or awareness that operates beyond traditional science. If that's true, then Kate's return is not just emotional recovery. It may also be the key to understanding what Titan X is actually doing. That leads directly into the Apex storyline, which continues to build tension in the present. Shaw and the team infiltrating Apex is exciting on its own, but the bigger revelation is philosophical. Apex doesn't want to coexist with Titans by respecting their nature. It wants to reshape that nature through inhibitor chips. Cora, or May, discovers that her code is key to making this plan work, and by the end of the episode, she stays behind with Apex. That is one of the most shocking turns in the episode because it places her directly inside the most dangerous idea the series has introduced so far: the belief that Titans can be controlled like machines. And this moment actually hints at something bigger, because the contrast between Monarch and Apex is getting sharper. Monarch, for all its secrecy and flaws, still operates from a place of trying to understand. Apex wants dominance, it wants mastery, it wants to override what Titans are. In a MonsterVerse story, that kind of ambition almost always comes with consequences. So when we ask what Keiko's nightmare really is, maybe it's not just family collapse. Maybe it's the realization that humanity is repeating the same mistake on a global scale, trying to control forces it doesn't truly understand, while ignoring the emotional and moral damage that comes with it. That's why Episode 4 feels so important. It is not just advancing the plot. It is tightening every thread around the same central idea. The past always returns, and when people refuse to deal with it honestly, it comes back more dangerous. Keiko's buried choices return through Hiroshi. Kate's trauma returns through San Francisco and Titan X. Santa Soledad returns as the destination that reconnects everything. Even Apex represents humanity repeating an old pattern, mistaking knowledge for control. By the end of the episode, Keiko's worst fear is no longer abstract. It is standing right in front of her. Her son now sees her through the lens of betrayal. The family pain she never truly resolved is about to explode into open conflict. And at the same time, the Titan crisis is escalating toward a place that is deeply tied to all of them. The personal and the monstrous are colliding, and that collision is exactly what makes this episode so good. Because underneath all the mystery, all the sci-fi, and all the MonsterVerse spectacle, this is a story about people trying to outrun grief, guilt, and unfinished choices, and learning that they can't. But the real question is, when Hiroshi finally confronts Keiko, will the truth heal this family or destroy what's left of it? And what do you think matters more going into the next episode? Hiroshi's discovery, Kate's connection to Titan X, or Apex's growing control plan? Let me know in the comments.